Jalen adjusted the controls of his small salvage ship, the Star Runner, as it shuttled between jagged asteroids. The belt was thick, with rocks ranging from the size of a car to massive chunks that could crush his hull in an instant. Despite the dangers, this was exactly the kind of work he liked. Quiet, challenging, and unpredictable. He didn't have a lot of money, but he had his skills, and in these far reaches of space, that was enough to survive. His scanners pinged suddenly, breaking the usual monotony. A distress signal, faint but steady, came from a direction deeper in the belt. He leaned forward, curiosity and caution mixing in his chest. Signals like this often came from merchants or miners, and while most were small-time, a few had contracts that could pay a decent sum if he helped them. Jalen wasn't in it for money, though. It was the challenge he loved, and the chance to help someone in trouble. He checked the coordinates and adjusted the thrusters to follow. The signal pulsed again, stronger this time. As he moved closer, he could make out a massive shadow among the asteroids. A ship, sleek and unlike anything he had seen before, its design smooth and almost organic. The hull was scarred and smoking, evidence of a violent impact. Jalen's eyes widened. This wasn't just another merchant ship. Whatever was inside, it was important, or at least unusual. He brought the Star Runner closer, navigating between two large rocks with practiced skill. The ship's hull shimmered under his lights. Jalen's instincts told him to approach carefully, but his curiosity pushed him forward. "Looks like someone's in serious trouble," he muttered. "Better see if I can help." He prepared the docking clamps and moved toward a large airlock. The ship's door was damaged, but he managed to secure a temporary seal. Pressurizing the small passage, he pulled himself inside. Smoke stung his eyes as he scanned the interior. The corridors were wide and opulent, far beyond anything a regular trader would use. Lights flickered, and a faint hum of machinery struggled to stay alive. At the end of the corridor, a figure appeared. Jalen froze. She was tall, her skin a pale shade that almost glimmered under the dim emergency lights. Her features were sharp yet elegant, and she carried herself with a kind of authority that made him feel small. She wore a suit that seemed to flow with her movements, and her eyes, bright and intelligent, looked directly at him. "Are you
here to help?" she asked, her voice melodic but firm. Jalen nodded quickly, still stunned.
"Yes, I got your distress signal. I can help fix your ship or get you out of here safely." The woman regarded him carefully, as if weighing his honesty. "Finally," she nodded. "I accept your help." "My name is Liara. Thank you for responding so quickly." Jalen swallowed, noticing a faint smile on her lips, though it didn't fully reach her eyes. "I'm Jalen." "Just Jalen? Let's see what we can do." He moved quickly, assessing the damage. The ship's hull was badly scarred in several places, and life support systems were faltering. Repairing the ship would not be simple. Jalen pried open a maintenance panel, muttering to himself as he adjusted wiring and patched conduits. Liara watched silently, her expression calm but curious. She didn't intervene, but she studied his every movement with a keen intelligence that made Jalen slightly self-conscious. Hours passed as he worked tirelessly. Sparks flew from exposed conduits, and the heat of the engines made the corridor feel stifling. Jalen wiped sweat from his forehead, keeping his focus on the task. Despite the complexity, he found solutions. His human ingenuity, his ability to improvise with limited tools, made a difference. Where advanced alien systems seemed impenetrable, he found simple workarounds, connecting circuits in ways that even Liara had not considered.
"You're skilled,"
she finally said, breaking the silence. Jalen glanced at her, surprised. "I've had to be. Out here, if you can't fix something, it doesn't get fixed." Lyra nodded, her eyes thoughtful. "Your people, you adapt quickly. You find solutions where others fail." Jalen shrugged. "We survive by trying. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't." He returned to his work, but he noticed a faint curiosity in her gaze. a respect that he had rarely seen from someone so powerful. Finally, after hours of careful work, the ship's primary systems flickered back to life. Lights brightened. The hum of functioning machinery filled the corridors, and the emergency signals ceased. Jalen exhaled, relief washing over him. "There," he said, wiping his hands. "She should be operational now, at least enough to stabilize you." Liara moved closer, inspecting the repairs. "You have done well. More than I expected." Jalen smiled faintly, though his exhaustion was evident. "Just doing my job." Liara's expression softened slightly, though her eyes still held a glint of intrigue. "You have helped me, a stranger, without hesitation. That is rare among your kind, Jalen." He shrugged again, feeling awkward under her gaze. "I help because I can. It's simple. Anyone in trouble deserves a hand." She regarded him silently, her thoughts hidden. There was more to Jalen than his skills, she realized. Something about his honesty, his courage, and his willingness to risk himself without expecting anything in return. It was refreshing, almost alien in itself. As the repairs completed, she offered a gesture. "You may rest now. I will handle navigation and communications while you recover."
"No! I'll make sure everything's stable first. Then we can talk."
Over the next few hours, he monitored systems, checked life support, and ensured that no further malfunctions could endanger them. By the time he finally allowed himself to sit, his body ached, but there was a deep satisfaction. He had done it. He had helped someone in need, and in doing so had proven himself in ways he hadn't expected. Liara approached him again. "I want you to understand something," she said carefully. "You may not realize it, but your actions have consequences. Small choices can change the fate of many." Jalen frowned. "I just helped fix your ship." "That's it." She smiled faintly, enigmatic. "Perhaps. Or perhaps not. Time will reveal it. For now, thank you." They spent the remainder of the cycle in quiet conversation. Jalen learned fragments about Liara, though she kept much of her life and identity concealed. He sensed her power, her influence, but he did not yet understand the scope. She, in turn, observed him, his intelligence, his humor, his humility. Every small action he took, every decision, showed her the best aspects of humanity. When the ship was finally ready to leave the asteroid belt, Jalen prepared to depart. Liara's ship was stable, her crew, or automated systems, functional. He felt a strange mix of pride and sadness, knowing that this encounter, brief as it might seem, had changed something in both of them.
"Will you be all right?" he asked, standing by the airlock. Lyra studied him, her eyes almost unreadable.
"I will, thanks to you, Jalen. But remember, helping someone is never simple. The universe is larger than you know." He nodded, still unaware of her true status. "I just did what I could. That's all any of us can do." As he disengaged the docking clamps and floated back to the Star Runner, he had no idea that the small act of helping a stranger would ripple across the galaxy. Queen Liara, the most powerful and richest ruler he had unknowingly aided, now had a human in her debt, but more importantly, someone she trusted. Jalen set course back toward the frontier, unaware that his life had just begun to intertwine with forces far greater than anything he had imagined. The stars stretched endlessly before him, full of danger, opportunity, and stories yet to be written. He smiled faintly, excitement mingled with exhaustion, ready to face whatever the universe threw next, guided by human courage, ingenuity, and the simple willingness to help another being in need. The first part of his journey was over, but the story and the test of his humanity was only beginning. Jalen's small ship cut through the darkness of deep space, leaving the asteroid belt behind. His hands rested lightly on the controls, though his mind could not stop racing. He had done something unusual, something he had never imagined. He had helped a stranger, a powerful stranger, and in doing so, had unknowingly touched the life of the richest ruler in the galaxy. He tried to return to his usual routine, checking salvage contracts and scanning for stranded ships, but the quiet hum of the Star Runner no longer felt familiar. Something had shifted, an invisible weight settling over him. He knew only one thing for certain: helping someone, even without thinking about consequences, had far-reaching effects. A communication ping drew his attention. It was not the usual distress signal or contract offer. This message was different. The sender was unknown at first, but the system displayed a name that sent a jolt of surprise through him. Liara. Curiosity and caution battled within him as he activated the link. A holographic image flickered to life before him. Lyra's face filled the small cockpit, calm and serene as ever. Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, met his. "Jalen," she said softly.
I am glad you responded. I didn't expect to hear from you, he admitted. Is everything all right? Everything is stable for now, thanks to you. But there are developments, she said, her voice measured. "I need your assistance if you are willing to come to my flagship."
Jalen's stomach tightened. He had helped her once, and now she wanted him again.
Part of him wanted to refuse. After all, he was just a salvage pilot, not someone who traveled in circles of galactic power. But another part of him, the part that had helped her in the first place, compelled him to agree.
"All right," he said finally. "I'll come. Where do I meet you?" Coordinates appeared on his navigation screen, leading him to a system he had never visited before. The journey was long, but Jalen allowed himself time to prepare. He checked the ship, ensured all systems were functional, and thought about what he might encounter. He had no illusions that this would be simple. The galaxy was full of dangers, and he was entering the heart of a world he barely understood. When he arrived, the flagship was immense, unlike any ship he had ever seen. Its sleek hull gleamed in the dim light of the nearby star, and energy fields shimmered around it. Jalen could feel its power even from a distance. As he docked carefully, he wondered how someone could possess such wealth and authority. Yet he reminded himself to focus on the task at hand, not the grandeur around him. Inside, the ship was vast, its corridors wider than most human vessels he had been on. Automated systems moved silently, attending to minor repairs and maintenance. Liara awaited him in a chamber that looked part command center, part personal quarters. She stood as he entered, her expression unreadable, but her posture welcoming.
"Thank you for coming," she said, gesturing toward a seating area.
"I want you to understand the situation. What you saw on your last visit was only a fraction of the challenges I face."
Jalen took a seat, trying not to be overwhelmed. "I'll do my best to help," he said. "Just tell me what needs to be done."
Lara's gaze was intense.
"Some factions in the galaxy are ambitious, greedy, and relentless.
They would take advantage of weakness if they could. Even now, there are groups who would seize control of my resources if they could. I need someone who thinks differently, someone who can act quickly and creatively." He leaned back slightly, understanding dawning.
"You want me to help because I see things differently?"
"I improvise, I guess. I make do with what I have."
"Exactly," she said, nodding. "Your humanity is an asset."
"You are not bound by the conventions and expectations that guide many in the galaxy. You act out of principle, courage, and ingenuity."
"That makes you invaluable."
Jalen swallowed, the weight of her words settling on him. He had never imagined that simply helping someone in trouble could lead to this. He was just a human, one who had always relied on instinct and effort to survive. And now, those simple qualities were being recognized as something extraordinary. Over the next hours, Liara explained the challenges she faced. Rival factions sought to challenge her authority. Certain trade groups wanted to control her resources. There were also threats from mercenaries who had learned of her ship's vulnerability. Every detail painted a picture of a galaxy where power was absolute, but cunning and morality could make a difference. Jalen listened carefully, absorbing the information. His mind worked quickly, thinking of ways he could assist. Where many would rely on force or intimidation, he considered strategy, preparation, and quick action. He suggested rerouting certain systems to prevent sabotage, using decoy energy signals to confuse trackers, and setting up emergency evacuation procedures that were efficient and discreet. Liara watched his suggestions with growing interest. "You think in ways others do not," she said. "You anticipate problems before they occur and find solutions that are unexpected but effective."
Jalen shrugged modestly. "I've had to do that my whole life."
"Out here, if you can't solve problems, you don't survive." She smiled faintly, the first genuine warmth he had seen from her. "Then perhaps your people have more to offer the galaxy than I realized. Your courage, your ingenuity, and your willingness to help. These are qualities I have rarely encountered." Days passed as Jalen settled into the rhythm of life aboard the flagship. He worked alongside Lyra's crew, gaining insight into alien technology that was far beyond human understanding. Yet he approached each task with the same practical mindset he had always used: observe, analyze, and improvise. Time and again, his solutions proved effective. A damaged energy conduit repaired with simple human logic. A navigation problem solved by intuition rather than protocol. A system rerouted to avoid detection by rival forces. Through it all, Liara watched him. She began to see not just the skill in his actions, but the essence of humanity itself. Adaptable, resilient, and willing to face danger without expecting reward. She could trust him in ways she could not trust anyone else. And that realization unsettled her. Power, wealth, and status often blinded those who held them to the value of simple honesty and bravery. Jalen embodied those qualities naturally. One evening, while the flagship moved through a quiet sector of space, a communication alert blinked. A message from a distant trade council appeared, challenging Liara's authority and demanding her attention. She turned to Jalen. "I need you here. Your perspective will be important."
"You see things differently." He followed her to the council's communication chamber. "I made sure you are too."
As they engaged with the council, Jalen noticed the subtle power dynamics at play. Certain factions tried to intimidate Lyra, others sought to manipulate her, and some simply tested her patience. He suggested diplomatic approaches that balanced firmness with tact, allowing her to maintain authority without unnecessary confrontation. His human perspective, unclouded by political games, proved surprisingly effective. The council's response shifted noticeably. Some members, previously antagonistic, now approached discussions with caution. Liara glanced at him, an almost imperceptible smile on her face. "You are more useful than I imagined," she said quietly. Jalen felt a mixture of pride and humility. He was still just a human, still a small figure in a galaxy of immense power, yet his actions mattered. His humanity, the qualities he had taken for granted, was making a difference on a scale he had never considered. Weeks passed, and the relationship between human and queen deepened, built on trust, respect, and shared experience. Jalen learned more about Liara, about the responsibilities of leadership, and about the constant threats she faced. And she, in turn, came to understand the quiet strength of a human who acted with courage and principle. The galaxy, vast and often indifferent, was full of danger. But with Jalen's insight, Liara began to see that intelligence, creativity, and moral courage could tip the scales in ways power alone could not. Humans, she realized, were capable of greatness not because of wealth or technology, but because of their willingness to act, to help, and to endure in the face of overwhelming odds. It was during a routine patrol near a trade hub that a crisis finally tested them. A fleet of raiders, drawn by rumors of Lyra's resources, attempted a surprise attack. The flagship's automated defenses could not handle the numbers, and immediate action was required. Jalen, thinking quickly, suggested a diversion using decoy energy signatures while rerouting power to critical shields. His plan relied not on raw force, but on timing, coordination, and clever use of both human intuition and alien technology. The battle was tense. Sparks flew across the corridors, alarms blared, and the flagship shuddered under attack. But Jalen's plan worked. The decoys confused the raiders, the rerouted shields absorbed critical blows, and the flagship emerged mostly unscathed. Casualties were minimal, and Lyra's authority remained secure. After the battle, Lyra approached him, her expression solemn. "You have saved many lives today," she said. "Not just mine, but the crew, the people who rely on us." "Your courage and ingenuity are extraordinary." Jalen shook his head, modest as ever. "I just did what I could. Anyone would have tried to help if they could." She studied him carefully, the weight of her thoughts clear. "Perhaps. But few act as you do. Most see danger and step aside. Most see power and either fear or seek it. You act differently." "You remind me of the value of humanity itself." Jalen felt a strange warmth at her words, though he remained humble. He had never imagined that his simple principles, honesty, courage, willingness to help, would be recognized in such a profound way. Yet now he understood that the galaxy was watching, and every small decision mattered more than he had ever realized. As the flagship moved onward, safe for now, Jalen reflected on how far he had come. What began as a simple act of helping a stranded ship had transformed into a journey across the galaxy, placing him at the center of events that could affect countless lives. And through it all, he had learned that humanity, its resilience, its creativity, its courage, could shine even in the vast darkness of space. The next challenge, he knew, was only beginning. The galaxy was vast, rival powers were numerous, and Lyra's enemies would not rest. But with human ingenuity, courage, and the bond he was forming with the alien queen, Jalen felt ready to face whatever came next. The universe was dangerous, unpredictable, and magnificent. And for the first time, he realized that his simple humanity could change it in ways he had never imagined. The galaxy was quiet for a moment, but Jalen knew it was only the calm before the storm. The raiders' attack had revealed weaknesses that rival factions could exploit. Liara had survived, and her flagship had endured. But her position was now more visible than ever. The richest queen in the galaxy was no longer hidden, and her enemies would not wait. Jalen spent the next cycles preparing. He examined the flagship's systems carefully, finding ways to strengthen shields, reroute power efficiently, and create redundancies that could prevent sabotage. He worked closely with Lyra's crew, teaching them simple strategies humans often used: improvisation, adaptability, and thinking outside the expected patterns. His methods were unusual for them, but remarkably effective. Lyra watched him continuously, a mix of admiration and concern in her gaze. He was young, human, and untrained in the politics and warfare of the galaxy, yet his actions often surpassed the plans of seasoned strategists. His instinctive understanding of risk, trust, and timing made him invaluable. She realized that his true power came not from knowledge of ships or weapons, but from his humanity, his ability to act decisively when it mattered most. Then, a new threat emerged. Intelligence reports from her scouts revealed a coordinated strike by a coalition of rival factions. They had combined their fleets to overwhelm her defenses and seize her resources. Liara called for a council in the flagship's command center. Jalen followed, his heart heavy with the knowledge that this would be their greatest test. The chamber was alive with tension. Alien leaders, some loyal, others wary, debated strategies and risk assessments. Liara turned to Jalen. "You have seen the battlefield in ways others cannot. Speak."
We can't fight them head on. Their numbers and firepower are too great. But we don't have to.
We can use their expectations against them, set up decoy ships, reroute energy to confuse their sensors, and create false signals that make them think we're weaker than we are. At the same time, we reinforce our shields at critical points and prepare emergency evacuation routes. If we act quickly and smartly, we can minimize casualties and force them to retreat. Some council members murmured in disbelief. Liara, however, nodded slowly. We will follow your plan. Human ingenuity may be the advantage we need. Over the next cycles, Jalen worked tirelessly with the crew. He coordinated decoy deployments, adjusted energy flows, and prepared contingencies for every scenario he could imagine. His mind worked like a machine, but fueled by human courage, compassion, and practicality. Lyra moved beside him, observing every detail, making adjustments based on her knowledge and authority. Together, Human and Queen formed a partnership that blended instinct, logic, and courage. The day of the battle arrived. Scouts reported the approaching fleets, dozens of ships in perfect formation, their weapons ready. Jalen moved among the stations, giving instructions, monitoring systems, and ensuring the decoys were in place. Every eye in the command center looked to him, some with hope, some with doubt, but all aware that this human might be the difference between survival and disaster. The first wave of attackers reached them. Their sensors, deceived by the decoys, reported only a fraction of the flagship's true strength. Energy weapons fired, striking shields that had been reinforced and rerouted just moments before. Sparks and flashes illuminated the corridors as the flagship trembled, but the systems held. Jalen's voice rang out, calm but commanding. Divert power to forward shields. Maintain decoy formations. Keep their attention on the false signatures.
Prepare for boarding attempts. Stay alert.
The raiders, frustrated and confused, changed formation, attempting to find a weak point. But Jalen anticipated their moves, adjusting energy fields and deploying countermeasures. The flagship's automated defenses, guided by human intuition, became almost unpredictable to the enemy. In the midst of the chaos, Liara moved to the tactical console, coordinating communications with her loyal forces. She relied on Jalen's insight, trusting his unconventional strategies over traditional protocol. The synergy between Human and Queen became evident as the raiders found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. One of the enemy's capital ships attempted a direct assault on the flagship's core. Jalen calculated quickly.
We can't let them reach the core. Use the graviton field to alter their trajectory.
Overload the engines slightly to push them off course. The crew executed the maneuver perfectly, and the enemy ship veered away, caught in the precise adjustments of human ingenuity combined with alien technology. Cheers and relief spread through the flagship, but there was no time to celebrate. More waves were incoming. Jalen moved from station to station, assisting wherever needed, repairing minor damages and guiding crew members through tense moments. His presence alone inspired confidence. Even the most skeptical officers found themselves following his instructions without hesitation. He was small in stature but immense in impact. Finally, after cycles of tension and strategy, the Raider coalition faltered. Their ships, misled by decoys and tactical ingenuity, became disorganized. Some withdrew, others collided due to miscalculations. Jalen and Liara watched as the enemy forces broke apart, retreating in confusion. Victory was theirs. Liara turned to Jalen, her expression a mix of pride and gratitude. You have saved my people, my ship, and countless lives today. Your courage and ingenuity, it is remarkable. Jalen, exhausted and covered in sweat, shook his head. I just did what I could. I reacted, and I tried to think ahead. Anyone would do the same if they had the chance. She smiled faintly, though her eyes reflected deep admiration. A few would. Most would hesitate or fear.
You act with the heart of a human and the mind of a strategist. That combination is rare in the galaxy.
For a long moment, they stood in silence, the weight of what had just occurred settling around them. The flagship was safe,
the crew unharmed, and the immediate threat neutralized. Yet Jalen knew that this was only one battle in a galaxy full of potential dangers. Liara approached him.
I must offer you a place by my side, not as a servant or assistant, but as a partner in thought, strategy, and trust.
You have proven yourself beyond expectation. Jalen hesitated, considering.
He had never sought power, wealth, or recognition. His desire had always been simple: to help, to survive, and to act rightly.
I appreciate the offer, he said carefully, but I must remain myself.
I cannot be tied down by expectation, even noble expectation. I need to keep my freedom, my ability to act as I believe is right. Lara nodded, understanding in her gaze. I respect that. Your strength is not in obedience, but in independence. That is why you are invaluable. Together we will shape the galaxy, not through fear or force, but through courage, principle, and ingenuity. As the flagship moved through space, heading toward safer regions, Jalen reflected on everything that had happened. What began as a simple act of helping a stranded ship had led him to the heart of galactic politics, conflict, and power. He had learned that human courage, adaptability, and morality could influence the galaxy on a scale he had never imagined. Liara, meanwhile, considered the young human who had changed so much for her. He was not like other beings she had encountered, those who sought power, wealth, or recognition. He acted from principle, and that made him trustworthy. She realized that the galaxy needed more like him, beings who could act with integrity and intelligence when the stakes were highest. In the quiet moments after the battle, Jalen stood on the observation deck, looking out at the endless stars. He felt a sense of purpose he had never known before. The universe was vast, full of danger, wonder, and opportunity. But human courage, ingenuity, and compassion could shine even in the darkest reaches of space. Liara joined him, her presence calm and reassuring. You have done more than you know, she said. Your actions today will be remembered, not just by my people, but across the galaxy. Humanity, your kind, can change the course of destiny in ways few realize.
Jalen smiled faintly, feeling the weight of her words. He had not acted for recognition or reward, only because it was the right thing to do.
And now he understood that sometimes simple human choices, helping, acting with courage, standing by principle, could ripple across the stars, shaping destinies far beyond comprehension.
The flagship sailed on, carrying human and queen alike through the galaxy.
Enemies might rise again. Challenges would come. But Jalen knew one thing. As long as humans retained their courage, ingenuity, and compassion, they could face anything, survive anything, and even thrive in a universe that often seemed indifferent. For the first time, he felt not just like a survivor, but a force for good in a galaxy where such forces were rare. And that knowledge, quiet yet powerful, filled him with a sense of pride, purpose, and hope. The stars stretched endlessly, full of possibility. And Jalen, the human who had offered his help without expectation, realized that sometimes the simplest choices, those guided by heart and principle, could shape the fate of entire worlds, and even the richest queen in the galaxy would never forget it.